Hello, everybody, and welcome to this month's edition of the Butterfly Princess Show Book Club. This month, for the month of May, we're going to be discussing the book Survivors, written by Maggie Oliver. Now, some of you may have heard of Maggie Oliver, or some of you may not be familiar with her, but Maggie Oliver was a former police detective who worked for Great Manchester Police, and she was playing a very important role in exposing and bringing to justice the Rochdale child abuse and child grooming scandal in the UK, within the UK in the north of England. Now, she has this book, Survivors, is the inspiration behind the TV drama show of Three Girls. Now, this was a 3-part series that focused on the case of the three girls, Holly, Ruby, and Amber, and it was shown on the BBC One in 2017, and Maggie Oliver had a consultancy role on this programme. And this programme, when it aired, had a total view of 9 million viewers. Now, so I'd like to spend a bit of time just to start off with exploring some of the themes that you will encounter when you read the book. So here are some of the themes. So the first theme is the theme of advocacy and resilience. So this Maggie Oliver's story stands out and it's out as one that is a story that is fighting for justice and supporting the survivors. More or less in the book, she supports the Ruby, Amber, who was a part of who was a member of Two Girls, who, along with Holly, was also sexually abused by Asian man in Rochdale who were from various takeaways. But Amber was unfairly treated by the judicial system because the justice system sort of viewed Amber as sort of a madam, but she played a pivotal role in recruiting young children to these for this, recruiting young girls for this to this sex ring, this paedophile ring. And Maggie explains in the book how she worked tirelessly with Amber to help make sure that Amber was a victim, just like the other two girls, just like Ruby and Holly were. She emphasizes throughout the book. She has a number of qualities, including that of courage and empathy with the victims and fighting for justice. The second theme is one of synthetic challenges. The book written by Maggie Oliver does delve into a number of challenges within systems that sometimes fail. So she goes in to explain how various people in an authoritative role or the many authoritative systems who were meant to protect vulnerable children and young people did actually fail these young children, especially Greater Manchester Police, because Maggie goes on to explain that social services did bring this, sex abuse ring to the attention of GMP. But in fact, some officers didn't really take much notice of this because there was a view that many of these girls sort of worked as sex workers as a lifestyle change, and really there wasn't much left for them to do. So that's how Maggie sort of fought for these perceptions to be changed. The next theme is that of empathy and personal growth. Through her experience, Maggie Oliver shows power of empathy and personal growth, helping others to tell their stories and seek justice. So in the book, Amber at first, Amber's family is reluctant to trust the police because, they've been let down many times before and they feel that they can't trust the police. So Maggie has to work with the family in order to gain their trust, and she views them as like human beings who have been victimised, not like most of the other colleagues in the past who have viewed them as, they're just worthless people, but it's all down to lifestyle choices and things like that. So that's some of the themes you will encounter within the book, Survivors. Now, the reason why this whole investigation came to be was because and it tells you about this in the prologue of the book, that one day a police officer is just doing a normal police exhibit check, and they come along an aborted fetus that has been found in freezer 46. Now, this is the fetus of an unborn child that who is the aborted baby of Ruby, who was the sister of Amber, who is she is very young for her age, although so the police have kept this fetus for their exhibits without the knowledge of the family. So this is how the whole investigation started, really. And the operation in which they start off to investigate this whole thing of, this aborted baby and this paedophile ring is an operation that the GMP called Operation Span. Now, this was an operation that Maggie Oliver played a very pivotal role in. It shows again her various qualities of her determined pursuit of justice in a challenging environment. So this was where Maggie Oliver was sort of working in a very male predominant profession, where she was taking her concerns to, the hierarchies of her bosses, but her concerns weren't being very, very much listened to. And throughout Operation Span, she's actually silenced. There's one bit where her work phone is taken from her and she's banned from having any communication with the family. Family and so forth, and one of the reason why this was one of the reasons why she resigned from GMP a few years later, because she thought that how these girls had been treated, these victims, by the police and those who have been positions of authority weren't really being listened to, and she thought because she was so passionate, she thought that she had a voice, and that voice should be used to fight for justice for these victims. Challenges faced. So I've already discussed some of the challenges Maggie Oliver comes up against during the operation span. So some sort of, the from higher up the hierarchy, none of her some of the concerns are not listened to. She's so it comes right down from the top and goes right from the bottom. And some thought. But even though she left Greater Manchester Police, Maggie Oliver did leave a lasting impact, a lasting legacy from her involvement with Operation Span. Through this operation, she helped to ensure the voices of survivors were heard. Her actions brought attention to serious issues within policing and safeguarding, and that of safeguarding children who were deemed to be at risk. Maggie Oliver also played a pivotal role in another operation within Greater Manchester Police, and this operation was called Operation Augusta. And this again shows her efforts to fight for justice and to issues of abuse and exploitation of children. So the focus of Operation Augusta was brought about by a young girl called Victoria Agoglia, who was a young child and who was abused and died from being sexually abused and sexually exploited by a group of men, and she tragically died when she was in the care of the British care system. So again, she thought Maggie Oliver came up with a lot of personal and professional challenges throughout the whole process of Operation Augusta, but she remained dedicated to bringing about to revealing the need for comprehensive safeguarding measures and an overhaul in procedures. Her actions have encouraged both broader discussions on child protection reforms. So when you read this, as you as a reader, so all these questions you will have that all these thoughts that we've discussed so far, it sort of begs the question of like, when you read her story, it invites us as the readers to think about the responsibilities we share in protecting those who are most vulnerable in society. And I suppose could not this does not just relate to protecting vulnerable children. It can relate to protecting, vulnerable adults as well, people who have, got severe disabilities or dementia patients or so what. We need to protect those and to ensure that we're safeguarding the most vulnerable in society in the most best way we can as a society. Although so in the book, Maggie Oliver doesn't just talk about the challenges she faced in her professional life. She also talks very openly about the challenges she faced in her personal life. So there was one where her husband Norman, who she was very happily married to, they had 4 children, and they then had various grandchildren. But Maggie's husband Norman is eventually diagnosed with terminal bowel cancer. He goes to the doctors on various occasions, but because of his age at the time, he's only 46 at the time, so the GP doesn't sort of listen to his overall concerns because they think he's too young to get bowel cancer. But it isn't until Maggie Oliver insists that, her husband gets possible treatment and a proper diagnosis, but by then it's too late. And Maggie's husband eventually dies, but she's got to sort of care for her husband while also facing these challenges at work. And also, when her husband eventually dies, she's sort of like facing other challenges at work because she said she's presented from the hierarchies at work to say if she doesn't return to work soon, then she will face a pay cut. But she is still in the midst of grieving. So this show key aspects of her personal personal strength. So yes, there's a husband's diagnosis of terminal bowel cancer did present a number of tremendously personal challenges in her personal life, in her home life, but yet she continued her advocacy in order to fight for these abuse victims. She was able to balance the roles. So she was able to balance the roles in her professional life and balance the roles of a caregiver to her dying husband in her personal life. So being a caregiver can present many demands on the person that is being the caregiver to the person. It doesn't just present the person challenges for the person who is being cared for, but it also presents a lot of challenges to the caregiver. And she managed to do this obviously continuing to fight and pursue justice. And this shows her commitment to principles and her family life. Right, so, and then the last one is empathy and advocacy. So Maggie Oliver's experience, both on a professional and personal level, have shaped her understanding of empathy and the importance of advocacy. Her personal journey highlights the of caring for others and seeking justice. Now we're going to talk about Maggie's relationship with Amber, who was one of the victims of the Rochdale child abuse scandal. But again, I've already explained how she wasn't seen as a victim by the justice system, because she was seen as like a madam, seen as recruiting vulnerable young girls for this paedophile ring. And so like I said, she had to work very hard on building a trusting, reliable relationship with Amber. Because, like I said, Amber didn't have very little trust for the police and for those in authority, with good reasons. And throughout the investigation, even though Amber was seen as a predator, as a sort of a perpetrator in the eyes of the judicial system, despite this, Maggie Oliver always stood by Amber and the family and supported her and always continued to champion the fact that, like Ruby and Amber, Ruby and Holly, Amber was also a victim of the Rochdale paedophile ring. So again, we have a number of themes that have been explored through this, from Maggie Oliver's relationship with Amber. So the first theme is that of advocacy and trust. So because Maggie Oliver spent a lot of time building a relationship built on trust and support, this was with Amber. This was crucial in helping survivors to share their stories. So before, Amber was very reluctant to speak about what happened to her, but by Maggie Oliver building that trusting relationship with her, she wasn't just any usual police detective. She didn't just read everything by the textbook. She sort of viewed them as human beings, and she was a mother herself. So she was a mother herself, and she had a young daughter at the time, Vicky, and it actually says in the book that Amber did remind her a lot of her own daughter, Vicky. So she would treat her more like a surrogate child. She would, take her out for tea, and she would just chat with her. And then as time progressed, Amber slowly started to trust Maggie Oliver, and that's when Amber started to open up and tell Maggie her experiences and what happened to her as a victim of child sexual abuse and exploitation. Another theme is that of empowerment and voice. So, like I've said, so throughout the book, when we read that Maggie took Amber for tea or a cake or whatever, or a walk in the park with the babies, they built up that trust, and Amber was able to open up and trust Maggie and really tell her what really happened to her. And the third one is that of impactful relationships. So the bond that Maggie Oliver was able to form with survivors, for example, with the bond and relationship she was able to form with Amber, is a testament to the testament power of supportive relationships. Such connections can not only aid personal healing but can ignite broader reforms. The next thing we're going to talk about now is that of the legacy of Maggie Oliver. So throughout the main themes that come from Maggie Oliver, this is legacy of being a voice for these victims of child abuse and exploitation, and for not letting the powers that be silence her. What's the word? I can't think of the word. Two qualities come out, and that is the one of resilience, advocacy, and influence. In the realm of justice and social reform, her work has left lasting impacts, inspiring changes in systems, supporting survivors, and encouraging public awareness of crucial issues. So the first one of that is advocacy and system change. Maggie's work in operations like the work of Operation Span and Operation Augusta has driven awareness and promoted discussions about systematic failures and the need to reform. Her legacy emphasises the power of advocacy to create change, reminding us as a society to create change, can influence institutions. Number 2, empowerment of survivors. So Maggie Oliver's determined dedication to bringing survivors' stories to light helps empower them, giving them a voice and vindication. Her commitment showcases the transformational effects of support and empowerment on individuals. Number 3, public awareness and dialogue. Through her advocacy, Maggie Oliver has significantly contributed to raising public awareness around child exploitation and systematic challenges. Her legacy encourages continued dialogue and activism towards creating a safer and fairer society. So now we're going to talk about the work that Maggie Oliver does now that she has left the Great Manchester Police. So currently, Maggie Oliver focuses on her advocacy work through a foundation called the Maggie Oliver Foundation. This is an initiative that aims to support survivors of abuse, exploitation, in turn helping them find their voices and access justice and ways of healing. So the Maggie Oliver Foundation. This foundation provides resources, support and empowerment to survivors, for fostering a community where they are understood and heard. The work of Maggie Oliver emphasises the work of Maggie Oliver and the work of her foundation emphasises her ongoing commitment to advocacy and change. Public speaking and awareness. Maggie engages in public speaking and media appearances. So so she also appeared in Big Brother, where she spoke about some of the issues regarding that of child abuse and child exploitation, and she's also appeared on many TV shows such as Loose Women to talk about her passions and her work. Um, so and the aim of this is to raise awareness about challenge. Her efforts aim to spark discussions and keep these critical issues in the public consciousness. And one of the things that struck me in the book was when she was particularly in the Big Brother house, which was she said that she spoke a lot of she spoke a lot about the issues of these two fellow housemates, but a lot of her discussions were edited out, so they didn't actually make the final cut that the public see. But she says that many of her housemates were open to discussing and hearing her views on, child exploitation and system failures. But the one person that she says in the book that she didn't really warm to, and she felt like didn't really welcome the discussions of systematic change, was that of Anne Widdecombe, who was a former Conservative MP, and during the time of these times of this, this dates back, these cases of exploitation and dreaming within Greater Manchester and throughout the whole country actually dated back to the 1990s. And in the book, Maggie Oliver sort of explains how Anne Widdecombe was in a position of authority within the Conservative government, and she didn't really do anything to help the situation. So they were permanently coming at loggerheads during her time in the Big Brother house. One minute, just bear with me. So I now want to talk about the drama of Three Girls, which was like I said before, was a three-part mini drama series that was shown on the BBC in 2011, in 2017, I apologise, 2017, and it was a fairly well-known cast. For example, the actress Leslie Sharp played Maggie Oliver. Lisa Riley played Lorna, the mother of Ruby and Amber, and Sarah and Maxine Peake played Sarah Rowbottom, who was a who was a sexual health worker who constantly brought concerns about these girls being abused by to the local authorities and people who were in authoritative positions, because she noticed that a lot of these girls were actually coming to her for you know for condoms and other protective measures towards contracting STIs and so forth. And they actually spoke openly to Sarah about the relationships that these girls were having with these much older men. So Maggie, so Leslie Sharp played the role of Maggie Oliver, and Maggie actually says in the book that even though she thinks that Leslie Sharp is a very good actress, she felt that she didn't play Maggie as sort of the way Leslie Sharp portrayed Maggie on screen was she portrayed her as a very standoffish sort of character, where the Maggie Oliver in reality was that of like she was very protective of these girls, and she was had a very close trusting relationship with them, and even though Maggie Oliver had a consultancy role on the program, she felt that not a lot of it wasn't accurately portrayed, although she did say that she had more of an active role on a documentary about not about the drama of three girls, but she actually played a more prominent role in a documentary program which explored the Rochdale child sex abuse scandal and the works of the police and so forth in much greater detail. And I watched the series. I watched it back in 2017 when it originally aired. And I also watched it quite recently. It was actually repeated quite recently on BBC One, and I rewatched it. In fact, when I rewatched it, I finished watching all the 3 episodes. I was looking through my Bobble Box app for inspiration to sort of what will be the book that I will be discussing for the May's edition of the Butterfly Princess Show Book Club. And that's when I came across this book, Survivors, by Maggie Oliver, and it actually said this was the book that was inspired the Three Girls drama series. And I thought I'll give this because I've just recently watched the Three Girls drama series. I'll read the book by Maggie Oliver and get a more detailed view of what really happened and what really went on. One minute. So I now want to talk about Sarah Rowbotham, who was the sexual health worker who worked with these girls and worked tirelessly in order to bring these concerns of sexual abuse of these sexual abuses to the forefront of these authorities' minds, but she was sort of brushed off because again, they viewed these girls as making certain lifestyle choices. But Sarah Roebuck, 1 minute, was actually a vital figure in this advocacy and support the young survivors involved in the Rochdale's child abuse scandal. Her tireless work as a sexual health worker who identified and reported the abuse shines spotlight on the importance of perseverance and dedication to justice. So, dedication to protecting vulnerable youth. Sarah's role in identifying and reporting the exploitation cases were crucial. Despite numerous challenges, her commitment to protecting the girls and advocating for their safety showcases the power of professional dedication and compassion. Advocacy and systematic change. Her persisting efforts eventually led to action and raised awareness about systematic failures and the need for reform within social services and law enforcement. She emphasised the influence one person can have on in inspiring systematic changes. Media representative. So, in The Three Girls, Sarah Roebuck highlighted her relentless pursuit of justice and support for the survivors. Media portrayals like this can amplify awareness and illustrate the crucial impact individuals can have in challenging systematic barriers. And it's interesting that we come across this bit because if you've ever seen the drama Three Girls, there is a prominent scene between Maggie Oliver and Sarah Roebuck, who are both played by Leslie Sharp and Maxine Peake. There's a scene where Leslie Sharp, as Maggie Oliver, goes to the sexual health workplace where Sarah works, and she actually asks Maggie Oliver asks Sarah for, files of these girls and sort of Sarah Roebuck sort of gives her the third degree where she says, well, why should I give you these now? You and your authorities haven't listened to me, so why should I give you these this information now when I've told you all this beforehand, but you've ignored it? So she doesn't give the file straight away. She makes her wait for it, but she does eventually give her boxes full of files. Right, so finishing off, Maggie Oliver is a notable campaigner who brought attention to grooming scandals and has worked tirelessly for justice and awareness about these issues. What context of advocacy? Maggie Oliver is widely recognised for her courage in exploring the grooming scandal involving young girls in Rochdale and has since advocated for victims' rights. Her work serves as a reminder of the ongoing battles against systematic injustices. Themes of resilience. Stories of personal tragedies such as the loss of a loved one invite discussions on the themes of resilience, hope and healing. Many find strength in community support and advocacy, similar to narratives depicting overcoming adversity. healing and reflection. Grieving and healing are profound experiences that many people navigate in different ways, often guided by community faith or personal practices. Although the story, Maggie Oliver's story, does extend to that beyond the themes of advocacy and advocacy, it explores themes within her personal life, such as the death of the illness and the death of her husband Norman, and the life-threatening illness and the eventual death of her young granddaughter Maisie. She navigates these challenges with grace and profound amounts of resilience. Right, so Maggie uses her personal journey, including family experiences, to fuel her determination to support victims and raise awareness about systematic failures. Family and community healing. Navigating personal loss or challenges often intertwine with finding support in family and communities. These experiences can be sources of resilience and healing. So there is one aspect in the story where shortly after her husband's death, her husband Norman's death, Maggie Oliver decides to take on a challenge of climbing. I think, what was it, climbing a mountain, or going to some African country to do a climb or something. It explains that in the book, but she uses that as a way to heal from her grief and sort of move on in a positive way, in a way that she will never forget her husband Norman, but she learns to live with her grief in more positive ways, and through doing that climb or walk in the African country, she's channeling her grief into a more positive aspect. Inspiration and impact. Maggie Oliver's continued efforts highlights how battling advocacy can lead to giving a voice to others and inspire change. It parallels themes of perseveration and transformation. So that concludes this month's episode of the Butterfly Princess Show Book Club. I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and I hope you can join me next month for the next episode. The next episode of the Butterfly Princess Show Book Club will go out on the 29th of June, but I will not be revealing the name of the next book we will be discussing until the 22nd of June, where and I will be announcing that the name of the next book we will be discussing and posting it out on the Butterfly Princess Show Facebook page. So keep your eyes and ears peeled for that, and don't forget, you can follow the Butterfly Princess Show on following platforms including Facebook, Instagram, YouTube and LinkedIn. But until then, have a lovely rest of your weekend, of your bank holiday weekend, and I will see you again very, very soon. Take care and bye-bye for now.